I'd like to invite Alicia to come up and share some memories and thoughts about her dad.
Thank you, Rabbi Eric. Thank you for coming today. When you're 92, for better or worse, there's not that many people left to come to your funeral. But I didn't publicize this widely because didn't want to make many people schlep to Long Island. But I appreciate everyone who did make the trek, and I know he would appreciate it. And thank you for being here. With that being said, one of my children couldn't be here. He's in Australia, but I'm going to call him now, and he's going to listen to me speak, and then he's going to speak after me. Hopefully he picks up. Let's just see if this works. How many people make a phone call from? Hey, buddy. So I'm up here. I'm going to speak, and then you'll speak, okay? But I just wanted to get you on the phone. Okay? Get a coffee. It's like midnight there. Anyway. Dad, you were the most prompt person that ever walked the earth. From the time I was 3 until I was 18, you picked me up every Sunday morning at 9 a.m., but you always arrived at 8:59. To you, being on time was already late. You were never late, not once. I still don't understand how you pulled it off, especially with unpredictable traffic coming from deep in Brooklyn to Greenwich Village every week. But you did. You were never sick. You never canceled. You never missed a Sunday or a weekend with me, not once in 15 years. Even after I moved to Chappaqua and our visits became overnighters twice a month, you still showed up every time, a minute early. Your punctuality became legendary in our family. But your reliability didn't stop at punctuality. You were also reliably thoughtful. On your many trips to Chappaqua, you never came empty-handed. There were bagels, cream cheese and lox, toys for the kids, flowers for me, and always a treat for Maggie. You and Maggie had a special bond. As some know, Maggie can be a bit protective of her people, especially when someone new enters the house. But she considered you one of her people. She adored you and the feeling was mutual. She'd give a tiny bark when you walked in and then rush over to begin your love fest. Speaking of bringing food over, one of your greatest strengths was knowing to outsource anything related to eating. Let's be honest, you could not cook. You really could not cook. I'd like to take a moment to review the menu from my weekends with you. Breakfast, Cookie Crisp cereal or 8 Ritz crackers. Lunch, a slice and a Zeppeli at Lenny's Pizza in Bensonhurst. Trivia alert, that's where the opening scene of Saturday Night Fever was filmed. Or we get hot dogs across the street at High's Deli. This will be followed by a stop at the newsstand for marathon candy bars, Pine Brothers cherry cough drops, and the latest comic book issue of Archie, Casper, Richie Rich, or Josie and the Pussycats. Dinner, always an Italian restaurant. You never met a tableside Caesar salad you didn't love. If we stayed in, it wasn't pretty, but it was usually edible. Broiled lamb chop, frozen French fries, frozen corn, and Oreos for dessert. However, our weekends together were about more than just food. You taught me how to ride a bike. You made me a dental retainer, yes, a fake one, so I could feel included after you told me I didn't need braces. But I desperately wanted them because all of my friends had them. You introduced me to the solid gold dancers. I fell in love with the Love Boat and developed a healthy fear of Fantasy Island. You gifted me the greatest present ever, a ginormous purple blow-up whale float that I named Sabrina. She was so big that I could have several passengers sit in her mouth while I pulled a rope to close her mouth around us. I think I felt safest there, floating and hidden in that whale you gave me. Another place I felt safe was when you would put me up high on your shoulders to get a better view. Whether it was at parades, street fairs, or marathons, I loved riding up there, seeing the world from up above, feeling completely secure. You also had a way of making little traditions feel special. Every Valentine's Day, without fail, you gave me a box of Whitman's chocolates. I can easily picture that yellow box and how much I look forward to it each year. You taught me how to vacation right. Warm weather trips to the Caribbean and Mexico were your thing. And before long, they became mine too. You showed me how to embrace sunshine, relaxation, joy, and thankfully we both tanned easily. I'm sorry that in my later teen years, I stayed out too late on those vacations. I know it probably wasn't ideal seeing your daughter roll in just as you were heading out to play golf. As a mother now, I realize that might be quite a bit terrifying, so I apologize. But you were so patient. You didn't have a quick temper. In fact, the only time I really saw you mad was when cousin Pam and I, at ages 9 and 7, went to breakfast alone in Puerto Rico, and we tipped the same amount as the meal, and then accidentally dropped the room key down the elevator shaft. At bedtime, you told me stories about Nicholas Marshavsky, a mischievous little Ukrainian boy your own dad had created for your bedtime stories. But I never once heard the end of a story because you always fell asleep before finishing it. You taught me to drive in your navy blue Mercedes 300D, first at Navy Terminal, then through the streets of Brooklyn. When I moved to Westchester and hadn't driven in a while, you drove me around to visit preschools. Later, when I was the one driving you, you used to say I drove too fast. I promise I really don't. You used to make buttons with our pictures on them. I have no idea why, but I'm wearing some today, and there's one on you now going with you. I thought you'd like that. Dad, you were full of personality. You owned a white John Travolta disco suit. I kid you not. Yes, I still have it, and I'm not ever giving that one up. You drove an emerald green Eldorado countless times over the Brooklyn Bridge to see me with WYNY radio and 70s tunes blasting in the background. Your sneeze wasn't just any old sneeze. If anyone ever had the pleasure or terror of hearing my dad sneeze, you'll know it was a full body experience. I'm convinced the Richter scale occasionally twitched in response. You sneezed with commitment, with volume, and without fail 3 times in a row. You tanned religiously and wore very confidently skimpy bathing suits as an early adopter of the Hampton scene in the 1970s. You never met a bottle of Hawaiian tropic oil that you didn't love. You loved to read, whether it be thrillers, 3 newspapers a day, or later children's books about animals and trucks to my kids. You loved your family deeply, your mom and dad, your sister. You were a devoted, generous uncle, cousin. You loved Rob from the moment you met him and were thrilled to share golf games and football with him. You always wanted a son, and Rob became that for you. You were smart with an encyclopedic memory. You knew a little about everything except for the things you knew a lot about, like sports. You could recite trivia from football and baseball games from 75 years ago. Elephants had nothing on you. I know this skill helped you in your medical career. You went to dental school at NYU and got your orthodontic specialty at Columbia, back when it was respectable. And I ended up following in your Columbia footsteps. You served as a captain in the Army, treating servicemen and women who needed orthodontic care, and you were extremely proud to serve your country. Later, you happily treated local children in your Brooklyn private practice until you retired. As an interesting aside and full circle moment, one of the children he treated turned out to be one of the nurses caring for him at his assisted living facility. You were proud of your roots, proud of your military service, and proud of your identity as a Jewish man, as an American, as a father and a grandfather. Those things mattered to you deeply, and you lived in a way that honored them all. Music made you happy. You loved most kinds, from jazz to disco to Broadway. Much to my horror, you always summoned the strolling musicians at restaurants. The loud O Solo Mio performances you accompanied them on made me want to hide under the table every time. There were many times. You introduced me to theater, thereby inspiring my childhood acting career. Together we saw Chorus Line, The Wiz, Annie, Evita, Dreamgirls, Oklahoma, Les Mis, Rent, Grease, The King and I, Pirates of Penzance, Nine, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and the list goes on. Because of you, my daughters have become theater aficionados too. When I decided to attend the University of Wisconsin-Madison, You immediately learned the fight song and stocked up on red clothing. You rooted for the Badgers as hard as I did. And now with Daniel going in the fall, I know he'll be rooting alongside him. You were the best kind of dad, reliable, loving, and always present. But you were an extraordinary grandpa. There aren't words big enough to capture what our kids meant to you. You were so proud of the family we created. You were a lefty and passed that on to Delilah. You were blue-eyed and passed that down to 3 of my kids. You were the first family member to visit Matthew in the hospital. You held him, marched him around while he screamed with reflux, and sang army songs, silly songs, Sinatra songs, all through the crying, always smiling, never flinching. You loved every second, even the loud ones. When Daniel came along, you were already a pro. You tossed balls, played trains and checkers. And when the girls were born, you were thrilled to buy them dolls, give them arm tickles, and watch Sesame Street with them. There were no prettier girls in your eyes. You were beloved wherever you went. At North Shore Towers, where you lived for 30 plus years, you were basically the mayor. On the golf course, where you were chairman for 20 years. At the gym, by the pool, the arcade, the bar. Even your doctors, and later on, even your palliative care doctor, found you charming, even in your hardest moments. Once someone was your friend, they were your friend forever. And to them, you were BD. You loved that nickname so much, it became your license plate. Some of your friendships lasted 70, even 80 years, and I know some of them are watching on live stream. It was a testament to your loyalty, reliability, and warmth. You never took friendships for granted. You nurtured them, showed up for people, and made them feel remembered. Watching the way you maintained these bonds over decades taught me how important it is to invest in the people that I care about, not just when it's easy or convenient, but always. That's something I carry with me now, and I always will. You were a ladies' man, and I always liked your girlfriends. They were kind and beautiful, just like you liked them. Even in your later years, you prefer the company of women, and I'm so grateful to Brenda, your friend, your dining companion, your rock. Brenda, thank you. Thank you for being who you are. You were such a comfort to my dad and to me over these past 2.5 years, and I'll never forget your kindness. Dad, until you got sick, first with COVID in March 2020, you were the healthiest person I knew. You never spent time in a hospital except for childbirth. At 87, you were still playing golf, and you could shoot your age. Rob tells me I should be impressed by that, so I am. But then, as they say, the wheels fell off the cart. Still, you never lost your spirit or your legendary stubbornness. Along with your strong will, you were also incredibly meticulous to the point of brilliance. You organized everything, your papers, your photos, your closet, your memories, your estate. You left me detailed instructions for what to do when the time came, and it made everything today so much easier. It was your final act of thoughtfulness. But you were also deeply resolute in your wishes. You made up your mind that your quality of life had become too poor to go on. You had some final goals: to see the girls turn 16 on June 12th, to turn 92 on June 20th, and to know Daniel graduate high school on June 21st. And then you said you'd be ready. You were nothing if not determined, and sure enough, your plan became reality. Your favorite song, I Did It My Way by Frank Sinatra. And yes, you really did. You lived your life, your way, and we were so lucky to be along for the ride. I love you, Dad.